So, welcome back to our series on the City of London governance architecture and what it means for delivery. I'm here today with Andrew Marsden, who is the current non-aldermanic sheriff. Hello, Andrew. Please, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, Paul. Yes, I'm Andrew Marsden. I'm the sheriff of the City of London. There are two sheriffs elected each year. We've been elected since 1131, so for nearly 900 years. So we are unusual in the sense that we're the only sheriffs actually elected in the United Kingdom. You'll have heard of high sheriffs in the ceremonial counties. They're appointed, we're elected. And we're elected, very importantly, by the livery.
Thank you very much. And briefly, could you outline what your role as a sheriff within the City of London entails?
Yes, it's got, I suppose, three parts to it, or maybe four, I suppose. The first is that although we're elected by the livery, we're actually accepted by the monarch of the time. We are the two sheriffs who are the King's sheriffs appointed by him to the judiciary of the City of London. And as such, we live at the Old Bailey, and we are essentially there to uphold the rule of law. And as part of that role, we are trying to explain what the role of the judiciary is, because the Old Bailey is the only privately owned court in the United Kingdom, and it's owned by the City of London Corporation. So that's part of the job. The second part, of course, is to uphold the dignity of the office of an elected sheriff. And the other main part of the role is really to assist the Lord Mayor in his role as Ambassador for Financial and Professional Services. Yes, the Lord Mayor of the City of London, again, uniquely carries cabinet rank and will spend a lot of time going around the world, probably over 100 days a year, maybe to 40 countries, advocating the role of the City of London as the financial centre of the world. And both sheriffs are there to support that activity.
So moving on, what impact can you have in this role in modern times? On what challenges might you face?
I think in terms of impact, a lot of it is relative to soft power, because of course we're definitely non-party political as the King's representatives. But I think one of the great things about the Shrievalty is its convening power. So I suppose the greatest element is that we introduce influencers into the city, and we do that by having lunches with the judges every day. And we introduce all sorts of people, from politicians to senior business people and so on. And then the real element of impact is when we're pursuing what we call our themes. So my particular areas are, I've been involved in mentoring senior women for 30 odd years. So EDI is very important to me. So I've had a glass ceiling event. I've celebrated International Women's Day, International Day of Women Judges. I'm going to have an activity coming up on, it's a decade since same-sex marriage was introduced. The other one, frankly, is in things like investment and growth, innovation and growth. I've had sessions on the needs of SMEs within the city, mostly micro businesses, because we have about 17,000 micro businesses in the city. And I'm just about to have a session on the value of intangibles, being a marketing person, on the value of intangibles on the balance sheet. So now more than half the world's stock markets are intangibles like brand value. That's about $75 trillion worth. And the other one is on regional and international growth. So I've had, regionally, I've had celebrations of St. Patrick's Day, St. David's Day, and more recently, and the most significant, I think, was a trip to the Ukraine where I represented the city. We went to Kyiv and Lviv, and we were probably the first commercial delegation to go to the Ukraine since the invasion. And the final element of what we can do is help with charitable activity. Most liveries have connection with charity one way or the other. So I'm holding activities for national numeracy, which is part of the Lord Mayor's Appeal charity. but equally for St John's Ambulance and the Order of St Lazarus. And two very important activities which are across the livery. One is the Sheriff's Challenge, which allows effectively young students to learn to practice the art of public speaking. They end up appearing in Court 1, and they grow 6 feet in the process. And we have about 20 livery companies involved in supporting that activity. And the other one, of course, is the Sheriff's Awards for Bravery, which is very much about connecting the livery with some extraordinary people who really do the most outstanding things without any attempt at preserving their own safety. And so a very wide range of things: soft influence, the power of introduction, the power of networking.
That is an immensely broad landscape you paint there, and how, in the right context, someone would grow 6 feet in stature in Court 1 rather than perhaps shrink.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else which, in your current role as chef, you'd like members of the livery to know?
I think there are two things. First of all, I didn't cover the challenges. I think if you are interested in doing this role, it's effectively a full-time job. So you will need to create the time to do it. I think the other thing I would draw to the attention is post-COVID, and obviously in the current state, there's been a great loss of institutional memory, and that includes within the livery. So if you look at the livery at the moment, more than half our clerks are new and have been on less than 18 months. I think it's really important that livery understand that they are part of the tripod of the governance of the City of London. There's the Court of Common Council, there's the Mayoralty and the Court of Aldermen, and there is the livery. You know, this is our last free vote as the livery in 900 years of voting. And equally, I think it's also, we must remember that, you know, the livery is effectively nearly 50,000 people, liverymen and freemen. And many of us, most of us, the vast majority are in business. And the City of London needs people with business background, particularly international backgrounds, to help support it. And therefore, I hope livery companies and individual liverymen will put themselves forward, get the alderman and common councillor voted for by the business vote as well as the domestic vote. Really important that liverymen get their businesses to register their vote and to actively participate in the governance of the City of London, either by standing or getting friends to stand as common councilmen and indeed aldermen. Because if we lose nearly, well over 1,000 years of livery connection with the City of London, we will be the worse for it. So please, please engage.
So, Andrew, thanks very much for that. Thinking about the livery, both in context of the companies and the individual members, is there any specific call to action that you would make to them to help in the good governance of the city?
Yes, I think one of the things that many liverymen think it's a bit of an anachronism is their right to vote at Common Hall. And it is a privilege indeed, but frankly, it's also a responsibility. We can't complain about the city doing things that we don't like if we're not prepared to stand up and elect people. So it's very important that when you people, if they are allowed to attend Common Hall as liverymen, they attend and they vote, because exactly the same applies in local elections. They must get their companies to volunteer, their staff to register and to take part in local elections, because the city governance is a very fragile thing. And the problem is, after 1,000 years, if we fade away by not taking part, it will be a tragedy for the city and its future. So if you get a vote or you can get a vote, do so, because otherwise we will either use our influence or we will lose it.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Much appreciated.